Bob. Thanks for joining us today. Really excited to have you on board as our newest HFSC board member. Excited to have this quick little discussion. But, you know, as we know, since the 1970s and the seminal report of America's burning, fire service and fire safety organizations have been talking a lot about home fire sprinklers. But, you know, back then there was really no organization that had the ability to take that on as a priority. So NFPA, NFSA and AFSA joined together to create the Home Fire Sprinkler Coalition as solely an education entity to really talk about the value of home fire sprinklers. So even though you're the new guy, I know you have long history with sprinklers and familiar with that commitment that AFSA meant. And so talk a little bit about what that means to you and to the organization.
Well, thank you, Lorraine. As you know, my predecessor, Steve Muncie, and Janet Knowles, who was vice president of the American Fire Sprinkler Association, along with all of our board members, were incredibly committed to this effort to bring awareness to the issue of home fire sprinklers. And you mentioned the America Burning Report, where we really did get to learn as an industry that the loss of life and property we're experiencing was more centered on single family dwellings and residential occupancies, multifamily dwellings, and so on. So the real losses weren't in, you know, the factories where the big dollar losses in maybe property were occurring, but the life losses were occurring in those residential occupancies. And we needed to get sprinklers into these occupancies if we're going to make a difference in saving lives. So we really, as you say, didn't have a vehicle to get the word out to the public. But it wasn't just the public we needed to educate, it was also the fire service. Our organization, and again, I credit Steve and Janet and my predecessors, but I also credit all of the leadership of all three associations to realize that this is a double-edged sword. We have to educate the public, we also have to educate the fire service. It seems to me obvious that when seconds count, first responders are minutes away. And if we don't get fire sprinklers into the built environment, we don't have a chance to save those lives. Construction has changed dramatically over the years. We have lighter weight structural members, and then we have higher heat release rate contents in the home. When we look at the pounds per square foot of combustibles in the home, the synthetics, the polyurethane foam cushions of a sofa or the chairs or all the things that are in homes, we see a very much more rapidly developing fire, much greater heat release rates. And if we don't control those fires and prevent flashover in the room of origin of those fires, we're never going to save the lives of the folks in those homes.
Yeah, and so if we can do something that is technology related to have an impact regardless of how fires start in homes. And, you know, you raised so many of the challenges that we have around the myths and misconceptions around fire sprinklers. The biggest one being cost, when we know from a lot of the research that's been done, they don't cost a lot to put them in homes, especially when we're talking about new construction. So that's one of the myths that we've been trying to overcome over these years, and I think have made a lot of success, but we've got a little ways to go. And I think the other point that you raised that was really important is that there's a lot of audiences that we need to educate around the value of home fire sprinklers, whether it's the public, first responders, and even those in the sprinkler industry that may be more used to working on a commercial end. And, you know, NFPA has 125 years of success talking about sprinklers from our very beginning. And we see the success rate with sprinklers in every occupancy and type of building that they exist in. And, you know, we talk about homes as sort of the final frontier for sprinklers, and, you know, the work that we're doing to educate builders and the public and everybody else, I think is that next hurdle that we need to get over so that we can get those sprinklers in homes.
Well, you know, Lorraine, there's a third group of people that we've had to really educate to bring about some greater successes, and that is the water purveyors. A lot of the early on costs associated with residential sprinklers really were the concerns of water purveyors about larger meter sizes and standby fees related to those meters. But the reality is, none of us would get in our vehicle and drive a mile down the road without fastening our seatbelts. And the goal, obviously, is to get the word out about the similar nature of not living in an unprotected built environment. HFSC has traditionally done a great job and continues to do a great job in educating those important sectors. In my opinion, we really do have to just get out to the general public. People need to know that when they're shopping for a home, they should be thinking about this. But it always comes back to the cost. If we can incorporate these fire sprinkler systems into the plumbing system in what we refer to as passive purge systems, now we're really getting to the heart of a cost issue, which is to say we can get fire sprinklers, operating fire sprinklers in that built environment at a relatively inexpensive cost and dramatically increase the safety and the value to those folks that are living in the home.
Yeah, and I think that was a perfect wrap. I've even heard it. We know from the research it's about $1.35 a square foot. I've heard as low as under $1 when you're doing some of these large developments. So, there is huge opportunity to get more homes sprinklered if we all work together. And I think the big wrap in finalizing this is the value of that education that HFSC has done for 25 years and is continuing to do as we move into the next 25. So thanks for taking the time today, Bob. We really appreciate the support of both you and AFSA Board of Directors and your membership. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Lorraine. We're so happy to be a part of this very important movement, and we look forward to the continuing relationship.